Anytime you're more than 80% booked, you likely aren't going to be able to satisfy in-week requests. But what happens if you get a bunch of in-week requests that could be long-term great clients?
Hey, welcome to the Leadership Podcast. My name's Kyle Racki, and with me is Matt Symes. We're talking about really just how to make sure that you can fulfill on your customers' needs at the right time, especially when there's an appointment-based business where, people don't want to necessarily wait a month if they're calling in. They want to get a same-day appointment. And so what are some of the tips and strategies that businesses can use to make sure that they're able to satisfy the demand that's out there?
You want to make sure that you know the hours you're open, how many hours you have, and you have to then contend with the cliffs and valleys. And I'll launch this by saying that there is a known science around this. It's normally in manufacturing. It's called quick response manufacturing, but we've moved it over to quick response service. Anytime you're more than 80% booked, you likely aren't going to be able to satisfy in-week requests. But what happens if you get a bunch of in-week requests that could be long-term great clients? So if I can't get into your place for 6-8 weeks, that may be a good short-term problem for you as a business owner because you got your appointments booked, you're making lots of money. But it is a very bad long-term problem for you because potential new customers can't get an appointment, which means you're losing the lifetime value of that customer. It's probably not the way that you want to run your business. So how do you set your business up so that you are making enough per week, but that you are flexible enough that you're not overstaffed constantly? That's the game.
A lot of businesses do this. They create policies that are good for them, but are terrible for the customer. And it's almost like they're in this mode of serving themselves. So like, for example, story I heard online about, somebody booking a nail appointment and just going to Google, finding the top 3 places, and every person she called was, no, we don't do same day appointments. You have to make an appointment in advance. Okay, so she just went to the next person until they had an appointment that they could give her that same day. And it's just like, by saying no, you're often turning customers away. Where I live in Dartmouth, I always lament about like the Dartmouth businesses because they have the weirdest hours. There's a pie business that everybody loves that's closed at 6 p.m. during the week. So if you're on your way back home from work and you want to get a meat pie for dinner, they're not open. It's like, why do people create these things that are just there to serve the business and not the customer? They're turning it away.
It's the number one mistake business owners make, and it's the number one thing that businesses that survive and thrive do differently. They see their whole world outside in from the customer's perspective back to what they're doing, not inside out from what do they want to do out. Anytime somebody cites a policy as why they're not doing something, you're in trouble as a business. You really are. And you're throwing away opportunities, completely throwing them away. Look, there's certain things you can do to create scarcity and create value in your business. But for most of us, how do you attract new clients and how do those clients become consistent clients is the most important thing to sustainable growth. So does your schedule and the way you resource that schedule allow you to flex with the ebb and flow of demand?
So what are some things that business owners can do to make sure that they have that amount of flexibility while also just ensuring that they don't overcommit?
Because if you overcommit hours and you pay for those hours for people to be idle, that's not good either. But I think one of the most important things you can do, and you talked about it with the pie company, how do you come outside in from when customers would want you? And how do you set up your business so you have enough of those hours? How do you understand the seasonality of those hours too? So how do we understand so we just don't get bull rushed in a certain season because we have consistent hours all year round? So, there's certain businesses that have more activity in the summer. There's certain businesses that have more activity when the tourists come in. You got to understand your business from the patterns of the customer and what the customer wants. And then let's start to go, how would we resource this? So in some businesses, you can keep practitioners on call and they will come in. In other businesses, you can make sure that you can always get someone an appointment within 2 weeks. So that means that I can't get you same day, as that woman want it for nails, but I can get you in within 5 days because I'm running what is referred to as quick response service. I'm basically 80, 90% booked. I'm always leaving 10% capacity for last minute appointments because I know the last minute appointment is actually worth more. I'm either doing a solid for one of my core customers or I'm getting a new customer in the door that has the potential to have lifetime value to me. So those being able to satisfy that demand is really important. Now, how do I do it profitably? Okay. The first thing that we do is set up a business model to make sure that you are highly profitable, only working 80% of the time. So that's the first thing. I ask businesses all the time, if you were only booked 80% of the time, 42 weeks a year, can your business model survive? People go, why 42 weeks? Hey, look, people take vacation. There are stat holidays. There's Christmas. There's, July and August where people don't have the same productivity as other places. So I want my business model to be resilient. So when we work with clients, we set up the business model in the beginning, that operational pro forma that I talked about. So it's profitable, 80% open, 42 weeks a year. When you look at it, you go, okay, is it highly profitable there? Okay, now everything above that is gravy. So now I'm not trying to resource to 100%.
And when you say highly profitable at 80%, what type of margins would you like to see?
It depends on the size of your business, first and foremost. But I want to see above 15% net profit, ideally closer to 30% net profit. If you're under...
Not EBITDA or not gross?
I want to see, if you're a $1.8 million business, the difference between net profit and EBITDA is mostly negligible unless you have a couple...
Okay. Just because with... depreciation and all those other things, you're driving down the profitability, right? So,
yeah. So I mean, look, if you're heavy on equipment and you have a lot of beds, and if you're a vet, you're probably staring at EBITDA on this one rather than net profit. If you're a physio, you've probably got your equipment bought. You're not probably investing heavy capital, but EBITDA or net profit, look at either one. But I want to see 30%. I want to see as a business model. And so think about that. Can I be open 80% of the time, 42 weeks a year, and make 30% EBITDA? And you turn around and you do the model, you're like, well, I'm not at that. Okay, well, what would have to be true for us to get there? And so often business owners are playing the game on hard all the time. They plan for 100% booked 50 weeks a year, and then they wonder why they're not hitting their financial targets. Well, you just set yourself up to fail. There's no way your business can go that perfect. And then what you have to do is you have to work an insane amount of hours, or you got to stretch something in order to make it work. So let's start with how we lay out the game. And then think about if you are 80% booked every week, what that allows you to do with the other 20% of the hours, right? You can use those hours in a number of different ways. You can use them on improvement so that you can actually drive your margin per hour up. You can use them on last minute clients. And by the way, last minute bookings, people are fine to pay a premium. Rush fees, last minute fees. Yes, I can get someone, but I got to bring someone in. People are perfectly fine to do that. I know a lot of businesses that we've worked with where that 80%, sure, they make a good amount off of. They make an equal amount off the 20% that they have available when they book it. Same amount of profit off the 20% that they do off the 80% because of how they've positioned it.
Yeah, because the buyer is somebody who is looking for speed.
Well, the buyer's no longer buying the service. They're not buying time and materials anymore. They're buying the appointment when I want it. Right? So again, and there's a few other creative ways to resource that I don't want to lose sight of. One of the most important ways to resource is look at subcontractors or partners who can flex, or individual people who are willing to work overtime. And when I get to the business model, I want if my whole business revolves around hours, I have the standard hours based on my employees, but then I also have subcontractors, my employees who are willing to work overtime. I have potential other businesses that would take my overflow business. The trick here is I never just want to say no. I want to be a good steward for that client, and I want to be able to get them in. So am I thinking about the client and the potential lifetime value of creating magic with that person over a long term? Or am I just thinking about my policies? Nah, I can't get you in the next, sorry, talk to you later. And I can't believe the number of businesses who are willing to say, yeah, no, we can't do it. Bye. Like,
Just straight up no.
right, straight up no. And look, this is normally somebody at the front desk who has limited capacity to influence anything. Either they can book you in or they can't. And this guy, I can't do it. Right, and it's just too bad, because there's so much more opportunity to do the right thing by the client, set your business up to be able to do it predictably, or set your referrals or your subcontractors an ability to bring it in and make it happen. I mean, you've got so many levers, and people basically just get into this false binary. Either I can get you in or I can't.
Maybe these rejections are happening without the owner even really knowing about them. So how does an owner now start to get visibility into what's happening at the front desk?
If you don't want to deal with the front end, like I talked about, and set the whole system up for it, you can deal with the front desk by saying, how many people were we not able to book an appointment for? And let's talk about the reason code. And over a month, you will start to understand how many people you weren't able to get in. And if you can qualify that even a little bit more, you can say, who are they? Are they an existing client or a potential new client? And why weren't we able to get them in? Now you're starting to understand the lifetime value, because every time you say no to somebody on your service, they are probably going to go get it somewhere else. And if they go get it somewhere else, you have just given a golden opportunity for someone else to provide a service that outwits your service, and now they're not coming back to you.
Especially where it's probably somewhat of a commodity business, right? You know, you get the physio or you go to the other vet, you know, you might like one better than the other, but they're not fundamentally different businesses. You go with the one that's closer, that's easy to work with, that's friendly, that you get what you want from.
Even if it's not a commodity business, that's even scarier to me, because you are now giving a person an opportunity to experience a service that they will compare to yours. So now it's not just how well are you delivering, it's how well do they deliver versus how you deliver, and that's rolling the dice. Because if this other company has their shit together, you may lose that client forever. So not only have you lost the value of the appointment, you've lost the lifetime value of that customer. And that's what I think people forget. When they just say no, they are potentially losing the lifetime value of an existing client. They are definitely losing. Like, I very rarely call a place back after they haven't been able to accommodate me. Like, and if they don't have their processes in place where they can work through how to potentially accommodate me, that's even worse. I know what kind of organization I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with a bunch of false binaries. I'm dealing with a bunch of inside out. I'm dealing with a bunch of people who aren't really interested in customer service. And you can't afford to do that in this world.
Is incentive structures sometimes the problem? Like if you're dealing with a front desk person and they're, you know, do you ever get that sense calling a place where it's like you're bothering them by giving them your business, right? Whereas if they were commissioned or something, they'd want it.
Right. So I think people work harder for stickers than they do for 20 cents on a new client. I think there's a certain subset. Don't get me wrong. We all know our salespeople are hunters, but I think they're a small minority. I think if we set up the conditions and the expectations, we get a different front desk person. Like, this is what it is to work here. To work here, we put the customer first. We try to find an answer. And in order to find an answer, you give them the levers of the answer. There's open appointments, there's referrals, there's people they could potentially call in. Can I put you on a wait list? There's all kinds of stuff they can do that. And if you want to look at anybody who's sort of leading the way in this, just look at the way that restaurants, high-end restaurants, interact with their clientele. Because they don't own you from a service standpoint. They want you there, and they have figured out all, and you don't have to show up, and there's no penalty for not showing up. So there are so many things that restaurants have done that they're way out ahead of what physio, vets, accounting firms.
Dig into some of those. What do they do?
Okay. They have a robust wait list that says, look, do you want to be on a wait list in case something frees up in the time that you want? And they manage that wait list on the side of the desk in case it did. They go like, look, we can't get you this time, but can I book you in 4 weeks or 8 weeks when you're up for your next one so that you can come and see us? And can I give you a discount on that one? Right? So if I can't satisfy you right now, can I still get a shot at you, right, to bring you in? And they, again, remember the triage we talked about in a previous podcast. They know the questions to ask to understand whether it's a returning or a potential new. And based on returning and potential new, they have a whole bunch of levers that they could unlock. You might have a very high value existing client that you're going to go and talk to their regular practitioner and go, look, can you stay an extra hour today and deal and take this appointment? Because like, you know what they're worth, you know how well they tip, you know that we don't want to lose them. Is there any, like, they really need in last minute. Can we do something? Right? So do you even have those levers in place for that front desk to be able to ask those questions? And most places they don't have them in place.
People can learn these types of things in the leadership program. That's one of the things that, comes out of it. This 12-month cohort-based program where, business owners who are struggling with, just these types of things, not maybe getting enough profit in their business and being just firefighting mode, just keeping the lights on, where, they can learn these types of tools, techniques, frameworks to be able to get out ahead of this stuff.
One of the things that's important is that there's 100 things you could do to make your business better. There's 100 things you could do. But when you're a small business, the most important thing is that you do them in the right order that benefit the business you're building in the future. So just finding a problem and fixing the problem isn't necessarily enough. In fact, most times, if you fix problem 7 versus problem 1, you've actually just invested money for not enough return. And as a result, you're going backwards. And this is what happens too often. So what we look at organizations, we look at them and go, look, you make a financial return because you satisfy a customer need. You satisfy the customer need because your core processes are in place: marketing, sales, scheduling, delivery. You're able to do that because your enablers are in place. I got the right people with the right skills, people, partner, subcontractors. I got the right visibility. I got the right tools and equipment. I'm able to put all that together because of the way I lead. So what we want to do is first understand that portrait to make sure that when we put this kind of effort to fix any process, a wait list is a great idea, but it might be priority number 805 for your business. So the most important thing is not to go, hey, I got this great idea, I'm going to put it in play, right? I don't want good solutions chasing things that aren't problems in your business yet. I want to get to well-defined problems that I can see that, look, if I fix that problem, it's worth X. So the leadership program is designed to help you sort through this and make sure you're putting the effort on the critical problems. And then look, the solutions we can go find, right? They're relatively easy to find once you've really, really defined the problem.
And that's what most people struggle with, is identifying the problem.
They struggle with it immensely because think about how you're socialized, right? You've probably been brought up through an industrialized school system that valued getting the answer right, not getting the problem right. And so we are programmed, both nature and nurture, socialized to win the trophy, get the A, get the check mark, be right. And when you're running a business, it's about getting it less wrong faster. The whole game's totally different. And so the issue that we run into when working with small and micro businesses is to get them outside of that mindset they need to be right. And it's even worse within highly technical domains. Think about lawyers, think about vets, think about physios, think about doctors, because they have gone on to advanced schooling and they've won the game so far because they were right more often than anybody else and they were judged to be right. And now they're running a business where they can never be right as much as they were in sort of the confines of a school. So it's really fascinating to watch how these technician-led businesses have a massive hurdle to get over to sort of see their business in a new light, recognize that they're never going to fix it all. And then let's just get at what we can get at with the speed we can get at it.
That has the highest amount of leverage, which is why we call it leadership. So if people want to check out the leadership program, go to leadership.com, apply to be in the next cohort, and we'll see you on the next episode.